Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
The DC deck building game is an entry-level deck building game for fans of DC Comics and a little bit of people who are fans of DC, the movies, but they're really just going to be comic-centric. With this one, Heroes Unite, you're going to get some lesser-known heroes, because a lot of the big A-level ones were in the original box set. There are some here that I knew, because I only come from the movies, not the comics, like Shazam. I think Hawkman's in this one. I think he was in the Black Adam movie. So there's a couple of iterations of the heroes that I knew, but some of these are getting to be a little B and C. And if it's one of your personal favorites, I'm sorry, I just haven't personally heard of it. You're going to get a deck of cards. Everything you need is going to be in this standalone expansion. You can just play just this one. So if one of your favorite heroes are here, you can just go out and collect this. You don't need any other set. What you're going to find here, though, is some very powerful cards, some very expensive ones. At times, that can clog up the line of cards that are coming out. And I think some of the cards are a little bit more OP, overpowered than other cards, and there are clearly just some better cards. The game system is still going to have the problem with the theme where you're going to get other heroes, traps, and superpowers and heroes. It's not all going to make sense within the scope of the theme, but it's the same goodness. The game is really the same. There's not a whole lot of difference. If you wanted to just shuffle this in and add this in with the other one or the base game, I think it would neuter this one a little bit, which is a good thing. So I would probably recommend doing that. But there's nothing new here. There's nothing groundbreaking. It's really a matter of like these new cards, these new powers within the same game system. I find this one not to be the most balanced. I don't find it to be one of my favorite sets. But it is one that if you're into this set and you want more stuff, you want more expensive cards, you want more powerful cards, this set is going to give it for you. For everybody else, it really wasn't one of my favorite ones. This one was a purge for me, but I'm not a real big fan of the series. I tend to lend myself to the Marvel Legendary series or other deck builders. But for an entry-level one, for fans of DC Comics, this is going to be the one to grab. Heroes Unite might be the third or fourth expansion that I would get for this. It's a purge for me. Here is Heroes Unite, which is a standalone expansion from DC the deck building game. You're going to get a rule book, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes. And you're going to see a way too large insert. I guess the thing is you want to put extra cards in here, maybe somewhat, but I'm not sure people store stuff in the expansion box that's the same size of the original box. It seems silly. You're going to get Batgirl, Hawkman, Shazam, Booster Gold, Black Canary, Nightwing, and Red Tornado. So those are the heroes that are going to come in this set. You're going to get any number of cards. These will be a humongous deck of cards that you can throw in there. I'm not going to go through each one for these purposes. You are going to have your starter punches, which will have Shazam on it for this set. You will then have your starter vulnerabilities, which will have Batgirl being beaten down. You will have your weaknesses, which I think is maybe Shazam being semi-destroyed there as it's going through. And then you will have your kick, which will be Nightwing going to kick. And last and not least, you'll have your supervillains. So you're going to have Hector Hammond, Mr. Freeze, Arkillo, Vandal Savage, Amazo, Necron, Trigon, Mongol, Graves, Hellspot, Black Adam, and Heal. So those will all be in here. And you're going to have a good portion of sets you'll be utilizing as you go through. That's what you get. The components are good. Nothing to write home about, but that's what you have. To play the game, everybody's going to choose a superhero. You can do it randomly, or you can play it together. Each superhero will give you a different power. So once during each of your turns, you may discard a punch. If you do, draw a card. Plus 1 power for each hero you play during your turn. You may pay 4 power, plus 1 for each defense, etc. So each of these will give you a different thing that you will have. Everybody will start the game with 7 punches and 3 vulnerabilities. You will shuffle these 10 cards up to make your starting hand. Then you'll draw 5. And every turn, you will be drawing 5 cards. This will be your starting hand. You're going to shuffle the big deck of cards here you'll shuffle this up. And you'll put a number of cards. And you'll put 5 cards that will go face up. There might be different things like villains and equipment. Looks like we got a lot of villains here. But you might have some additional equipment that would come out. You might have additional heroes that come, or you might even have superpowers. But you'll put 5 of these out to start the game, shuffle the deck, and set it aside. So on your turn, it's very easy to play. You're going to count out whatever power you have. There's only 1 currency in the game. The vulnerability does nothing. So you're going to have 4 power. Then you'll be able to purchase cards that are up here in the thing. So let's say this one right here costs 3. I will pay that, put this in my discard pile, and replace a card in the center. Now the villains, all the cards kind of are the same. Even though you're quote-unquote fighting them, you're just paying power. You have victory points on here. Now, when your turn is over, everything's in your discard pile, you draw 5 more from your deck. If your deck is ever out of cards, you take your discard pile, you shuffle it up, and you start drawing from that. There's different types of cards you'll have. You'll have hero cards, which just give you the little power that's on them and the abilities. Equipments kind of work the same way as do villains. The only cards that are a little bit different are locations. So when those get drawn, they sit in front of you and they usually have an ongoing power. The game will end when you defeat enough of these supervillains. When you set up the game, you'll have a number of these that were out. They will also have hit points or currency that you have to punch up all in one turn. They usually have a first appearance little thing, like an ambush attack, that will happen. So let's look at Black Adam. When he first appears, he attacks each player, destroys a hero in their hand or discard pile. And you can also put him into your deck once you purchase them. After you defeat enough of the supervillains, you'll add up all the victory points in your hand, discard pile, and etc. Whoever has the most points is the winner of the game. Who should buy this game? Simply entry-level deck builders, fans of DC Comics in general. If you match those 2 things up on the Venn diagram and you fit in that little slither, this is for you. Very popular series. I'm in the minority on this one. I like it. I don't love it. The theme doesn't follow for me. It's not very thematic. It just feels more slapped together how you're getting stuff and you're playing through it. Fun. This one has a little problems with some of the cards being overpowered. This one has a problem with some of it maybe clogging up the deck a little bit. I didn't like this one as much. If I was going with a DC deck building, I would go with another set unless I really like these characters. I like Shazam in this series. I know him from the movie. I enjoy it, but everybody else, it was kind of lost on me. Purge.